Mushoku Tensei is arguably the greatest isekai ever created. The story, characters, animation, soundtrack, and world building are peak. But wherever you look, whether that's on Reddit, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, you always see comments that are like, I'm not watching this anime, Rudis is a pedo, or Rudis is like P. Diddy in anime, or I want to be group. Okay, so you get the idea. So introducing the beginning after the end. A story similar to Mushoku Tensei, but without the grooming and all the other parts you don't like. King Gray, the person who stood above all, died and reincarnated as Arthur, the greatest baby known to man. Although he may look like your average child, you do not want to mess with him, and especially not his family. The world is just like Mushoku Tensei with your magic action fantasy with great characters and plot, and they even recreated a thick mom, but no one wants to see a copy. When I first read this, I was like, what is this Mushoku Tensei ripoff? So to determine if T-Bait is actually a knockoff, I'll be comparing the two animes. If T-Bait wins, then it qualifies as a better version, but if it loses, it is a candidate for Mushoku Tensei knockoffs. I'll be comparing the two animes based on the main character, side character, world building, art, writing, and antagonist, and I'll add in some bonus rounds. So let's begin with comparing the MCs. Arthur is way more competent and mature than Rudis. As a small kid, he showed off his skills by killing a group of assassins and rescuing the elf princess. He then stood toe to toe with the Elven King and made him rethink his life. He even made the Elven King's father turn on him. So in terms of feat at 5 years old, Arthur definitely takes the cake. Rudis, on the other hand, saved his family from Paul's stupidity. He also broke free from his traumas of going outside from his past life, which is a nice touch. So I'll give a point to both of them. However, Arthur isn't a groomer, so another point for art. Next, we have power scaling. There will be spoilers, so skip ahead if you don't want to hear it. Arthur is a quadra-elemental mage, wind, water, fire, earth, which the average mage only controls one element. He owns a pet dragon who can literally destroy the continent if it wanted, and he is also good with a sword. He took out a tree monster that was SSS danger level, he took out the headmaster of a guild, he took out a drugged version of an already strong character, and he fought toe to toe with the strongest mages on the continent, whose powers have been passed down for centuries. Rudis, on the other hand, is taking L after L with every battle. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but from the list of his battles, he fought against a lizard monster which resulted in the death of 2 people. He fought against the furry clan and lost. He took on 1 slave master and won. He got captured by the ugly prince. His girl left him. He couldn't get it up when it was important. He left his family to find his family just to rescue his family member and then lose a family member. And he also lost to Orsted, which I don't blame him for because Orsted is one of the strongest characters in Mushoku Tensei. Power-wise, he is pretty strong for his age. The experience of Arthur is just too much for him to handle. Arthur clears him, so he gets a point. I'll give a bonus point to Rudis because his art didn't downgrade throughout the seasons. Next, let's move on to side characters. First, we have the competitor, T-Bait. They have Jasmine, Gandalf, and Tesha. Let's start with Jasmine. She's the quiet kid with a big heart. Similar to Roxy, but she uses a sword and thinks of Arthur as her brother. Gandalf, or the former Elven King, is a much cooler character. Can actually do something against enemies. It's kind of generic, but like the old strong grandpa or grandma never gets old. Just look at Seiko from Dandadan. They just keep evolving. Lastly, we have Tesha. He's put in a story just to be Art's love interest, which at first worked and then got annoying fast. An honorable mention to Sylvie, which is his pet dragon. Mushoku Tensei has Paul, Eris, Sylvie, Elaine, Rugierd, the guy who got in prison with Rudis and the rest of the crew. Based on this list alone, it gives Mushoku Tensei a point. Paul had perfect development, and he didn't change his character so much that he was a new character, but he was willing to change for the sake of his family. The same can be said for Eris. She was a bratty character at the beginning, but as time went on, we began to see that Eris is softer than she looks. She's the opposite of Tesha, annoying at first, but you actually begin to like her afterwards. When Eris left, it really showed her maturity. She knew she couldn't be with Rudis because of the political instability, and she was too weak. She obviously didn't want to leave Rudis, but she did it ultimately for his sake. Right now we're tied, so let's break that before we move on to the next category. The bonus category I made for the D-Gens and me is the best looking MILF. You have Zenith versus Arthur's mom. Do I even need to say anything? Let me just remind you by showing you some pictures. Got it? It's obviously Zenith. You can't beat Zenith. There are some anime MILFs that are definitely in that range, but Art's mom isn't one of them. They literally had to nerf Zenith by taking away her personality, but she still clears Art's mom any day of the week. Art's mom's whole character is worrying about Art, and spoilers, but after Art reveals that he has a past life as King Gray, she literally hates him. She hates him so much that she has a mental breakdown. And I understand, but when that's your whole character, if you're not worrying about Art, you might as well just blend into the background. So Zenith, even nerf Zenith, is just better. Better design, character, and writing. The next category is world building. Mushoku Tensei's world building is peak. They go from rural house area to vibrant city to demon continent to animal kingdom to modernized city to desert city, back to school to dungeon. The author is cooking with each of these settings. Rudis is never in a setting for too long, and the atmosphere is just fresh. There's still so much to explore, and that's just the beginning of it. The only other author to top refusion and world building is Oda, and that's saying a lot. T-Bait on the other hand goes from rural area to cave to elven kingdom to dungeon to school to dungeon to dragonland. And I understand the long school arc because Mushoku Tensei also spends a lot of time in school, but the dungeon is way too repetitive. Most manhwas take place in a dungeon, so they should probably just go somewhere different. They even showed a map of the continent, and there's definitely more areas to go to, but Arthur doesn't go to those places. They spend too much time on sticking close to family, and if the author was gonna do that, then he probably should have developed the characters more. So Mushoku Tensei wins this one, and it's not even close. Let's switch it up now and go to antagonists. To measure this, I just decided to go with who I hate more. Our two competitors are Lucas Waikis and a Hydra, I guess, or maybe even the fat prince who kidnapped Lilia. So let's start with T-Bait. Lucas Waikis is human garbage. When I first read T-Bait, this kid made me so mad. He is the definition of what you see is what you actually get. This guy acts like a prideful dog and he can't even back it up. Once he's introduced in the anime, you'll understand my feelings of hatred. Mushoku Tensei hasn't really touched on the main antagonist, and unfortunately I'm an anime only watcher. But some of the antagonists like the fat prince or bald priest are literally vile human beings. Mushoku Tensei has the advantage of being a dark fantasy, and that really is a helpful factor when making a hateable character. But as much as that Hydra gojoed Paul, there's not one antagonist in Mushoku Tensei that makes me hate them more than Lucas. He's one of the characters allow anyone to punch on sight. He's getting it one way or another, whether his balls are crushed or he crushes his own balls. That will be the only way he goes. So another point for T-Bait. Which brings us to the last category, which is writing. We'll first start off with T-Bait. The story and concept is good, but I would say how it is executed isn't the greatest. The overarching storyline is probably foreshadowing a dragon war. We do see this in the first few chapters, but after that, it really isn't brought up that much until the 100th chapter. The side quests are cool, but like, what's the point? All the side quests keep building on Arthur's strength and don't focus on progressing other characters or advancing the story. The problem is that I only care about Arthur, so when he's not on the screen, it becomes boring. The characters don't feel that fleshed out to me compared to Mushoku Tensei, which is why Mushoku Tensei wins by default. They focus on developing the characters. I think because Rudis is so flawed, as viewers we're just not attached to him like Arthur. We start to look at other characters because Rudis is just not a great person. That's where you can start developing the other characters. The MC doesn't shine so much that it overshadows the other character. Story-wise, Mushoku Tensei also has side quests, but it adds to the subplot of getting home or finding Sylvie. Writing of Mushoku Tensei just flows from one event to another, like it feels natural. This is why Mushoku Tensei is goated and has not found its match just yet. So, we can qualify that T-Bait fits the criteria to be a Temu knockoff. Anyway, subscribe and like, and comment below what videos I should make next. See you later.